Well, I think we're live. Good morning, everyone. G'day from down under. Let me check that I have got all of these things off. I think I have. Popping in for our usual Friday live show with you guys. Sony Alpha rumours and news. Not that there's really that many rumours and news. Let me just start the timer. Where are we? Start. Beautiful. We're off and running. So pop in and say hi in the chat. I'm going to give it a little bit of a pre-show, so we'll have a few minutes for that to let everyone pop on board. I am a fraction earlier today, around about half an hour or so, but I thought I'd pop in a little bit earlier. So let me check who's coming into the chat. So we've got Stuart James is saying hello. Gilbert is also saying hello, but he's midnight in the UK, so he's hopping off to bed. But he did already give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Gilbert. What else? We've got Barry saying, good morning, David. All the best to you. Thank you so much, Barry. Same to you. Stuart says, Gilbert, yes. Thanks for just editing a new video for YouTube. Oh, Gilbert's put a new one on YouTube. I'll have to have a look. Hero said, notification gang. Eli is saying hi. Alex is saying hi, everyone. Mike is saying happy Friday. I know it is a happy Friday today. Fatamir, g'day Fatamir, how you going? Aussie Gamer said, joining live for the first time, awesome. Well, good to see you on here, Aussie Gamer. Mark said, g'day mate. Casper said, Nikon is dead. Casper's starting with Fatamir already. That's nice and early for you guys to be on to one another. Jess is saying hello from Denmark. So how many of you are actually going to be ordering the new iPhone? I'm sort of tossing between, you know. The thing is, I've got the iPhone Max, the XS Max, I think it is. I'm still tossing because it's tonight. It's tonight at, 10 o'clock our time, 10 p.m. So I'm debating whether to upgrade to the new one or not. I'm still deciding. I mean, the cameras look like they're nice with the wide angle and stuff like that, but I'm curious to know how many of you guys are going to be upgrading. Let me know, especially if you've got the latest iPhone at the moment. Let me know if you are thinking about upgrading as well, because I'm just curious to see how many of you are going to do it. I've never missed an iPhone. I've had the iPhone on day one since the first one that was released. So if I don't get it, this will be the first time I've ever not done it. But I don't know. I'm tempted. I'm going to see what sort of plans they have. So I might wait to see how much the plans are and stuff this evening. But unfortunately, they don't release the plans until just at the time you can pre-order. So I'll have to think about it. Let me just go back to the chat to see where people are up to. Martin said, hi from Diamond Beach, New South Wales. G'day, Martin. John said, good night from Belgium. You're off to bed, are you, John? I'm sure you'll watch it later. Hero says, 80 megapixel EOS R. Yes, please, laugh out loud. Yeah, I'll talk about that as one of the stories today. Good morning, sir, from the US. Good morning, Teddy. Hope you can come and meet us all when we're at WPPI in Feb. Or was it March? No, it is Feb, isn't it? Trev said, seems like you were just here yesterday. I was. We came on a day late with Aaron yesterday. Normally we do it on the Wednesday or Tuesday US time. But Aaron was worried because there was a big storm coming over and he thought he was going to get blackouts. Because he says the infrastructure is not fantastic over there and whenever they have storms they get blacked out. So we did the show yesterday. But the show with Aaron, I might put this over this side. The show with Aaron is more a general type thing where we talk about general photography topics, whereas this is more Sony related today. Oh, thank you so much, Travis, already. Thank you so much, Travis. Really appreciate that. Gave me $1.99. Thank you, Travis. I'm going back to where we were. Hero said, Nikon got 50 and the 85 1.2 coming out. I need that in my life. Yeah, well, I do think Sony eventually is going to bring out a 1.2 lens. They did discuss that a while ago. So I do think that's going to happen. We just don't know when they're going to release that. But they did say they wanted to do it to prove that it was a possibility to have native FE, well, when I say Sony native FE lenses that could go as very fast. And they were talking about an f1 or an f1.2. So I think it's only a matter of time. The Nikon glass does seem to be really good though, so they are doing a good job. Mike says no new phone until 5G comes out in the USA. Yeah, there was a couple of things. Look, I was hoping that they put USB-C on these instead of having that archaic, what do they call it? The Apple lead that they put in. These stupid, horrible things that they do. So I don't know. I mean, I really did want USB-C. I mean, the iPad's got USB-C. So I was hoping I could standardize everything. But they didn't. I mean, yeah, oh well. Just one of those things. And it's no 5G, but there's no 5G really available here at the moment. So that doesn't worry me because I think 5G in Australia is still going to be a couple of years away. So a couple of things interest me, like the cameras definitely interest me. I would love that wide lens, and I'd love that wide lens to bring to the US in February for when I do some travel photography and stuff. And also being a YouTuber, having the 4K 60 on the front screen, because at the moment the front screen on this is not good at all, really. I think it's only 7 megapixel, whereas it becomes 12, I think, in the new one. But you can do 4K 60 from the front screen, so if you're vlogging, the new iPhone does make an awful lot of sense. I've still got to think if I can justify the cost though. Simple said Samsung S10 Plus, but iPad Pro for me. Eli says, yeah, the thing is I went Samsung for around a month, around about a year and a half ago, I think it was, but I just didn't like it. Now, when I say I didn't like it, the problem for me is everything I've got in the house is Apple. So I've got Apple computers that I'm dealing with here. I have a MacBook Pro that I have in the house. I've got Apple TVs. My wife has an Apple. I've got an iPad. And everything links together so well. And this is the problem. Like it all sort of keeps you in the Apple realm, if you know what I mean. It's hard if you go outside of it because you lose all those things that are there, being so easy to share to your Apple TV and you know, share your files between the computers and between your phones and things like that, and all the syncing that's involved and everything else. So it's hard to change over if you've totally invested in that one system. In a way, it's a bad thing, but unfortunately, not like now. I am so invested in the Apple system. It's very hard for me to get out of that because I probably do think. Like Samsung and the new Pixel camera phone that's going to come out are probably going to be ahead of what Apple has. But like I said, it just doesn't fit into that workflow that I've now got. I'm just laughing at Delta Dave saying, what's an iPhone? A-E-Y-E. Stop going crooked my accent, Dave. What else have we got? Pre-ordering tomorrow morning, upgrading from the 6S. Yeah, see, Eli, that's a good jump because from the 6 I can understand that, but it's sort of hard for me because I already have the latest version, and it's, yeah, I don't know. I'll just have to think about it. I'll probably end up doing it, but... Am I here yet? Yes, you are, Jim. You're on here. Trev says, I'll probably upgrade because I just do it every year. I'm the same. See, that's the thing. But the phone itself isn't an out-of-park device. It looks pretty... Okay, yeah, look at it. It's not. It's sort of like the upgrade from the A6 400 or the A6 500 to the A6 600. It's a sidestep. It's not really a big upgrade. Next year's one probably will be. Can't decide between the Pro or the Pro Max. I'll be getting the highest one I can if I get one. Hero says, iPhone 11 doesn't have an SD card slot, so still no go for me. Jess says, no new iPhone this time. See, so a few people may be saying that. I've been looking at sites online, and a lot of people have been saying the same thing, that, you know, they don't think it's worth upgrading, and that's why I thought I'd talk to you guys about it. I want to get the new iPhone. Which one have you got, Photomic? Have you got the current one, though, or not? Donald says, iPhone purchase this time next year, maybe. Loma says, I made it to the stream. You did, Loma, so thanks for joining us. Whoops. I'm just having a few minutes, guys, to get everyone on board before we start talking about the show. So if you've got anything quickly. Oh, Travis, you gave me another $1.99. Thank you. I got 2 from you. iPhone, me too, but remortgaging for the A9 too. I love it. We're going to talk about that as the first story, I think. I will pass on the new iPhone. Jim said, I just put down payment on the Bugatti. Ooh. I'm sure you did, Jim. Alex said, just finished setting up my editing suite in my new office after moving home. Big 32-inch 4K Dell monitor is amazing to edit on. It would be. I've got a huge 4K TV screen behind me. It's a 62-inch, I think it is. It doesn't look that when you look back there, though, but it is, because it's a big wall back there. I use that for showing my clients all of their work and stuff like that, their images when they come in. Sam said, I'm still grieving from my A6100 and the A6600. I love it. Yeah, YouTuber said, hi. Leanna says, greetings. I hope the new iPhone will not outperform the A6600. Well, it may do in the video realm, that's for sure. G'day, Panda. Oh, this 80 megapixel camera is going to have a 0.2 crop. I love it. Yeah, cripple hammer time. I need to block Ike then. Iron Brown. G'day, Iron Brown. Mark said Sigma has the 35 1.2 native for Sony now. Yeah, but I'm just talking about, Mark, what I was talking about was Sony releasing one. They're still saying that they did want to release a lens, fast one, a Sony mounted lens. I know there's FE lenses that are available. Jim, g'day. Loma says, David, what do you think about the best pro camera released a few days ago? Which one was that one? Loma, explain which one it is. The Panda says, Apple is dying and we have to get it through our heads. I don't know if they're dying, Panda, but lightning connector, yeah, thank you, John. Sometimes I go blank, it's just my age, I think. G'day, Steve, how are you? 5G, yeah, not even a thing yet. Yeah, 5G is going to be a while away. I mean, like I said, we have got 5G here in Melbourne, so it is available, but it's only in Melbourne. Now, I'm 50 kilometres away from Melbourne. I'm not sure what that is in miles, but it's probably 30 miles or something. But we don't get it here where I live. And they say it will be about 1 to 2 years before 5G is readily available everywhere. Trevor says, the screen is better, the processor is faster, and the camera is much better. If that doesn't do it for you, you should pass. I'll order mine tonight. Yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking about it, Trev, but I probably will. Rumours starting of iPad Pro refresh coming soon. Current iPad Pros were released October. Yeah, look, they will. They'll probably put the A13 chip in there. But you know what? I wouldn't hesitate even jumping in and getting the one I've got, which is the 218 iPad Pro. And the reason I say that is because none of the software, there's no software on there yet that even pushes that processor. It's that fast. So I don't think you need the refresh because I think everything is there already. But obviously, if you haven't got one, you might want to hang out just a little bit to see if they do refresh it this year. But it wasn't mentioned in the Apple event the other day, so it may be a little bit before they come out. But like I said, I certainly wouldn't hold back if you did want one now because they're so fast and nothing pushes that processor already. You're going to get the Huo P30 or the Mate 20. Mark Imaging said 5G here in the UK. Have you got it there? Have you, Mark? Yeah, well, you must be ahead of us a little bit. Stuart says iPhone 11 Pro can do front and rear cameras at the same time for vlogging. Yep, they can. That's the thing. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, for a vlogger, it may be a really good tool to have. And Filmic Pro looks like you can have all 4 cameras showing up at the same time and you can select what you want to use. So that's really cool. And that's the reason why I may think about upgrading it. The Panda says, oh, damn, Apple everything, David. Yep. Trev says, oh, right, I'll be getting the Apple TV Plus and everything in the house is Apple, so the iPhone is just an extension of that. I'm exactly the same, Trev. So it's the same. I don't have Apple underwear, Panda. Altrix saying hi. Where were we? Whoops. Photomix says, oh nice, Stuart James Photography. 5G has not caught on here in the US yet. 4G works well. Yeah, we're the same. It's exactly the same. Eli says, I think software is much more important than hardware, especially on a phone. And Apple does iOS and cloud integration very well. And they do, and that's the thing. The Apple software is very good. And you don't have to worry about running out of memory and all these sort of things, you know, and viruses and everything else, which is pretty cool. Simple Boy, I use my Samsung mobile with my Apple TV just fine, but I understand what you're saying. My son has the whole Apple setup though, yep. Brand says you can always jump on the fake AT&T 5G. Is there a fake one? Apple haters are mad that Apple is so successful without having to try so hard to push specs like Android. Yep, they are successful. That's for sure. Everyone is complaining about how the Pro models look. I don't think they look bad at all. I mean, I think they look fine. So that doesn't bother me. I think the cameras and everything look great. So I like the green. That's the thing. Everyone seems to be going for the green. I like the green as well. Photomix says, I have the 5.8 XS, but the 3 cameras and the improved FaceTime camera, better battery and increased performance of the 11 Pro has my attention. I'm exactly the same as you. I've got the XS Max though, so mine's the bigger one. But I have a stupid Samsung Galaxy J2. Jess said, it finally happened to me. One of my SanDisk cards broken, but luckily I was saved by the extra card in my a7 III. So now I've learned how important it is to be fully guarded with 2 cameras. Yep, it's happened to me on a paid shoot. USB Type-C, no, not lightning port. Yep, that's what I would have wanted. Next year's model probably will have USB-C. No thumbs down yet, and I'm sure it'll happen. Andy says, before we start, Andy says, I way prefer Mac OS over Windows, but I love the amount of customization you can get on the Android phones over iOS. Yeah, like you're very limited on what you can do in iOS, and I understand that, but I don't worry about that anymore. I used to be tinkering. I used to be really into Windows and all that sort of stuff, and I really don't mind that anymore, that I can't do that, because the system's more locked down and then you have less problems, I think. Torben says, not to sidetrack things, David, here, but what are you using as your DAW, David? Logic and Pro Tools here. I use Logic Pro, is what I use. Yeah, that's what I use. A9ii, there is nothing else I want. Happy to have a brick for a phone compared to that. All right, guys, let's start the show. So let me go over to the thing. I'm just going to put the time in. So what time are we? 16:17, I'm going to say. 17. All right, let's start the show. G'day everyone. We just had a bit of a pre-show. Well, it went for 17 minutes. You know what we're like here. We just talk, it's like friends around a table having a drink and just having a chat about photography things. I have got a timeline, so if you don't want to watch everything we talk about, you will be able to skip to that. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. G'day Ben. Ben's just joined us. So I will have that timeline listing all the stories as well, so you can skip to it as well. I just noticed too, just out of curiosity, Profoto also have put out a new teaser. I didn't show that today because it's more Sony and sort of camera rumors, but I noticed Profoto have got a teaser for the 18th. So it's going to be interesting to see what that is. They say it's going to be a game changer. There is a little bit of a preview that you can see, but it doesn't really show much. It just shows an outline. But you know what I'm like in the Profoto realm, so it's interesting. I'm a bit excited to see what that will be as well. So let's go to the first story today. I wanted to talk about the A9 too. So Sony basically, this is interesting because we heard the other day it was 2 weeks away, and now it's sort of been pushed to the mid-October, so it seems to be getting pushed away again, and this will end up being next year. It'll be, like I said, it'll be sometime next year, who knows. But there is Photo Plus, obviously, on October the 24th. But I also saw online that I think it was Petapixel said something about Sony weren't listed. Let me just open up a new page for a second. File new window. Petapixel. Because Sony weren't originally stated to be there. And I noticed it was here. Let me just switch over to this for a second. But it says they are going to be there, and it's going to be announced shortly, because they're saying updates. Sony will be at Photo Plus Expo 2019, because they were showing the plan, and Sony weren't anywhere in any of the plans. So this is interesting. Like, you know, you've got all the others, Canon, USA, Nikon, and everything have already got it. So I'm curious to know where Sony are going to fit in, though, if all of the plan has already been filled out. I remember last year Sony had the largest stand, if I remember correctly. But this is interesting. But they have said that they are going to be going, and they'll update later today somewhere where they'll be. But I don't know how that fits in when all these other places have already got their sites listed. Whether they can then, juggle things around to fit them in somewhere. But I don't understand why Sony weren't there originally. It's a bit of a hindsight that I think is very, very strange. Photomix said Sony is putting on their own event alongside Photo Plus. I got that inside information. So you're saying, Photomix, that they're not going to be at Photo Plus, is that right? Because they're saying here on Petapixel that they are going to be at Photo Plus. But like I said, how do they fit in now that the plans have already been made? So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. That's really a bit bizarre, and I think that's a bit silly of Sony. But anyway, even if they are going to go there, they should have already had that planned, I would have thought. But anyway, back to the A9 II. That Sony's they're now saying it's an SR5. I think that Sony are going to release or announce this camera at Photo Plus, which is, well, I think it's at Photo Plus mid-October, they're saying, between October the 24th and 26th. They're saying the camera will be announced in October, probably around mid-October, so it does fit in with that Photo Plus timeline, or as Photomix says, perhaps they're doing it at a similar time and not going to Photo Plus. They may be doing an Apple, how Apple don't now go to any of the sites anymore, they just have their own events. It's saying it's got the same camera body as the a7R4 with the additional dial on the left, which I love. Once you've used that dial, I've got the camera in the other room. Once you've used that other dial, it's hard to go back because it really does make a massive difference. The big improvements are inside the camera with a very new generation Sony sensor and improved autofocus. Now, it's interesting to see how they can do the autofocus, improve it, because I just can't fathom how they can improve what the A9 gives me already. But anyway, they're probably talking about milliseconds. And this was a discussion I had the other day that when you're talking about cameras nowadays, particularly like the A9, and when Sony come out with these events and they say that the autofocus has improved from 0.04 seconds to 0.02, as an average user or a normal user, you can't tell the difference. And it's just a spec that they come out with. So, I will be interested to see, and I'm only talking from my personal perspective, that I find the A9 is unbelievable in autofocus. I mean, really incredible. And I just can't fathom how they could improve that much over what it is. But anyway, that's what they're saying. Like I said, it may just be a number that they come out with. I've not heard anything else yet that could be announced besides camcorders tomorrow, he's just said, which I'll talk about in a minute. But now it looks like the pricing, they're guessing that it's going to be around about 5,000 US, which is probably around about right what I would think this is going to be. You'd think that'd probably be, it's going to definitely be Sony's highest priced full frame camera. I mean, we know that. This is going to have, it's their premium camera, it's their flagship model in their camera, so you're going to have to pay for it. This is the reason why I will probably hold off updating this for at least 6 months. Like I talked to you guys before, that I don't want to lose the value like I did last time as a business, because I paid 7,000 Australian for the A9, and then I think 6 months or so later it was $1,000 cheaper or something like that. And then after around about 12 months or after that anyway, it dropped substantially, like $2,000 or something, and now you can get it for $4,000. So there is a big devaluation if you want to purchase it straight away. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. The reason why I'm saying I'm not going to do it is because I already have the A9. So that's my thinking here, is that I still love the A9 and I love that thing to death. It's my favorite camera that I've ever owned. And I want to get around about another 6 months to 12 months out of that camera before I update it. So I'll definitely get an A9 II, but I'm not going to get it straight away. I will probably wait a few months, at least 6 months, before I jump in and get it. And then I might keep my A9 that I've got and get another A9 too, and use the A9 as a backup camera. Or I may just sell the A9 and then just buy the A9 too. I'm not sure yet what I'll do about it, but I'm just telling you that I won't be updating immediately. No matter how good it is, I'm going to hold off. Only for, like everyone else, that I'm running a business and I do have to be careful on how much I spend. I'm still after a video camera. You know, and I don't want to be buying a video camera and the new A9 too when I've got the A9, which is already good enough, and I've got the a7 III as a backup camera and the a6-400 as a camera as well. So I will hold off on the A9 too until it drops a little bit. Like I said, at least if it will drop, you know, I'll probably wait until it's dropped down $1,000, something like that, which will happen. It just depends on how quick it happens, but it will happen. And I suppose it's a thing too with the Aussie dollar is sucks at the moment. So, you know, if that's a, you know, price of $5,000, let me just go on here, calc, because I can't do it without in my head. So if we say $5,000 plus 30%. Yeah, so it's going to be, with our tax paid on, it's going to be over $7,000 again. So it's probably going to be $7,000 to $7,500, and I'm not prepared to pay that again. Not at this stage. So, but like I said, if you didn't have the A9 already, you only had, say, one of the older Sony cameras, and you wanted to upgrade to this, or if you were a full-on sports photographer, you could probably justify it. As a portrait and wedding photographer and things like that, I just can't justify the expense when I've already got the A9. But that's just what I'm thinking. But I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced that it's going to be announced yet. We're still waiting on the A9 to the A9 firmware update to come out. So we're still waiting on that. We don't know when that's going to be. They've said September, so we're still waiting on that to come out sometime this month. But look, there's a couple of things too. If it does have 36 megapixels, that is going to be a really nice amount of megapixels also if you're shooting in crop. So that is another great feature of this too, because they keep saying that it's going to have a 36 megapixel sensor. I'm certain that this is going to come out before the Olympics. I mean, there's no doubt that Sony will want a new flagship camera to come out before the Olympics. But we just don't know when that's going to be. Whether it's announced in October doesn't mean it will be released within a month or 2 months. You know, it could be 2 months away or 3 months away before it actually ships. We don't know yet, but it certainly will be shipped in time for the Olympics. So anyway, they're interesting rumors. 36 megapixels, fantastic. It would be great for cropping. So if you do want to go into APS-C mode, you've got that great crop size. But like I said, I'm going to hold off. So that's that story. Now, was there another one that I wanted to... No, we're going to go to the next thing, which is this FX9. Let me just put in here. I forgot to put what time we started with that too now. I'll just do the next time, which is 27:51. 27:55. So the next story is the new Sony camcorder that's being announced. They've just, well, it's leaked, so it is going to be announced apparently. It's an SR5, so they usually do tend to come true. They've just announced this FX9. Now, I'm wondering too if this is directly why Sony are holding off on the A7R, the A7S III, but I'll talk about that in a minute. This new camcorder is obviously, it's 6K, but it's got some incredible features. I mean, I'm just going down here where I saw it, what it was mentioned. It's a newly developed sensor. Let me just get this. There we go. So we're reading this part up here. It's a newly developed 6K full-frame sensor. It offers a wide dynamic range with high sensitivity, low noise, and over 15 stops of latitude. So it's a 15 stops dynamic range. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic camera. It's going to record internally 4K 422 10-bit, oversampling by the full-frame 6K sensor. So it's a full-frame sensor in there. Allows professionals to create high-quality 4K footage with impressive bokeh. And it also, they're saying that slow motion speed with is 120 frames per second shooting. With the same color science and dual base ISO 800 to 400 as the Venice. So it's getting the Venice color science as well. The sensor can also create softer and more alluring facial tones. It's got this, it'll probably have the A9 sensor focus in there, I would say. It just says the enhanced fast hybrid AF system with AF transition speeds and sensitivity settings also combines with phase detection AF for super fast subject tracking with contrast AF for exceptional focus accuracy. A dedicated 561-point phase detection sensor covers 94% of the frame width of the frame and 96 of the height. And it says responsive AF tracking with fast-moving subjects while maintaining shallow depth of field. So it looks like it's going to be a really nice camcorder. I mean, really nice camcorder. You're getting 10-bit. They're saying that, I think updates... where did I read that it was going to have some updates? They're just saying there's future supported updates that are coming through as well. 6K oversampling, not capable of 6K recording, so you have to understand that it's 6K oversampling, so it's not recording at 6K. But boy, that they haven't said how many. They just it's 120 frames per second. So I'm just wondering too, like, and this is the thing that is bugging the absolute crapola out of me. I'm just hoping that Sony aren't holding things back like the A7S because of these camcorders and things like the FS7 and this FX9. It's got an electronic variable ND filter as well. So wow, the FX9 looks like it's a really good camera. I think I read somewhere that it was going to be around about $10,000, I believe, was the price. So you've got a variable ND filter in there. You've got 10-bit 422. It's 6K oversampling to 4K. It's got 16-bit raw output, 15 stops of dynamic range, 120 frames per second. 422 looks like a fantastic camera. I'm just hoping that Sony are not doing a Canon now and holding the a7S III back to make sales in this. Please don't be doing that, Sony, and I hope that's not the case. It just seems to be that the Sony a7S III has disappeared off the radar. Like we're not even really hearing anything about that camera now, which is bizarre because I don't really understand when you're getting cameras like this released. I mean, obviously this is a big body. Is that the issue? Is it that Sony just cannot do what they need to hand us, like the 4K 60 in the size body that they've got? I mean, I don't know whether that's the case because clearly they're doing it here, and I think it's 120. I'm not certain. I know it's 4K 120. Yeah. So I'm not certain whether they either can't handle it in the body or they're holding back due to something like this camera that they don't want to take sales away. And I hope that's not the case. But, you know, I'd love to know what you guys think about that. Let's open up the chat just for a little bit because I want to catch up with where we are because that's two stories that I've talked about. I heard the RF levels I used with the 5G are dangerous to human health. Maybe I won't buy the Apple stuff this year and instead buy an A9 II. That's still just talking about all of the Apple stuff. Let me keep going down. PhotoMeX says Sony is putting on their own event alongside Photo Plus, so he's saying that they're not going to be at Photo Plus, which sort of contradicts what Petapixel was saying. So that's interesting. Sony will announce the next God of War, not the A9 II. During the same time, PhotoMeX says, one of the guy that works for Sony and hosts B Alpha events told me. So it's an SR4. Oh, so you're saying that's the, you should call that a PR4. The PhotoMeX R4. Stuart James said we had an SR5 for the RX10V, but it ended up being the R. Yeah, I know. Look, it is still only a rumour. You just never know. Mark said, so Photo Plus will be an empty place with everyone rushing to the phony, sometimes I say phony, the Sony campus, laugh out loud. Trevor said 5K. Jesus, yep, it's going to be 5K, man. Just get used to it. He is at a B Alpha event in Charlotte right now. Sony is going to have butt tracking, laugh out loud. Ugly detection, I love it. Unbox said $4,500 was the first A9 release. Yeah, well, you would expect it to be a bit dearer than that now, Unbox Tech. I do think it's going to be 5,000 US. I really do think it's probably going to hit that mark. Long Rider said the autofocus could be improved with extending the range of the eye tracking. Thanks for that, Long Rider. Trev said, I just can't justify 5K, that's insane. Yeah, well, you know what, Trev, it's not that, look, it is a hell of a lot of money, don't get me wrong, it is a hell of a lot of money, but it's still cheaper than what the Nikon D6 will be, I can tell you that now. So the Nikon D6 and the Canon 1DX Mark, whatever it is, will be more expensive than what the A9 is. If you're dealing with the, remember this is their flagship model, Sony want a flagship model and you're going to have to pay for that technology. It's, you know, and it's just like Nikon have the D6 and Canon also have their 1DX. So you're going to have to pay for that technology. So it's still going to be cheaper than what they're asking. So yes, it is a lot of money. But I suppose one of the good things about this is if you can't justify the $5,000 price range, well, you can always get an A9, which is still going to be amazing. The A9 is still going to be an incredible camera for probably the next 3 to 4 years. Hart said, hey, David. Hey, everyone. David, what do you think of the 16 to 55 2.8G? Jason Vong recommends getting that lens instead of upgrading to the A6600. I think it's too expensive, Haz. I really do think that lens is way too expensive. I would get the Tamron over that. I still will stick to what I said, that I would not pay that much for an APS-C lens. No way would I pay that money for an APS-C lens. I really think you should buy full frame. The problem is if you buy APS-C, you're stuck on APS-C. If you take that onto full frame, you lose the advantage having full frame. You have to shoot in APS-C. I would get Tamron over that any day. I would get either the Tamron 17 to 28 or the 28 to 75, and then at least you can move over to the full frame side of things. Jason has his own opinions about why he'd want to recommend that, I suppose. I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's just way too much money for an APS-C lens, but that's my personal opinion. That's probably why I'll never be sponsored by Sony. Hero says, butt tracking, laugh out loud. Unbox says, I wonder why it went up. Well, look, it's a few years, isn't it, since the last one was there. So, you'd expect things to go up. I mean, I would expect to pay more than what I paid for the A9. My A7R just arrived today. I'm going to talk about that in the next story, actually, Henry. Congratulations. Gerald's messaged in the photography videography school that his came as well, so he was like a kid in a candy shop. Should be $4,500 at the previous A9 price months before. Hexotech said, question, will there be availability before December? How do we know? We just don't know. Jason said, a sauce gets whacked. Yep, we will. Like I said, it'll be $7,500 here for sure. I'm not paying that money again, not straight away. Regarding the release of the Sony A9 II, I feel this will be a Canon moment, a fractional improvement. Then again, how could Sony really improve by leaps and bounds on this camera? Well, it's going to be interesting, Carl, what they do release. Like I said, the A9 is incredible. So, but there are areas where they can improve it immediately. I mean, you can put a better buffer in there. You can give it 2 fast slots. Now, I'm just hoping that they can fit like at least one QXD or something in there, or CF Fast or whatever you call it, CF Express, because they really need that sort of cards in. Putting SD cards in is a bit of a backward step. So I'm hoping they've got the room at least to put one of those other cards. A Long Rider just gave me a donation. Let me just say thank you. Thank you, Long Rider. Really appreciate that. For the A9 II fun, don't tell Kerry, I love it. Where were we? Yeah, so I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. So Better buffer. Now, I've never run out of the buffer on the A9 because I don't shoot that way, and I shoot dancers like, I showed a shot that I did the other day. You may have watched yesterday's show, but let me just quickly show you again. This shot that I took the other day was only possible because I had an A9. Let me just see if I can move it over here. So this shot was only possible because I had an A9. Now the reason why I say that was because I tried before to do this with the a7 III, shooting the 10 frames per second. Now the problem was Annalise here, she's actually standing on her tiptoes in this. Now when Kerry saw this, she actually said to me, boy, Annalise here looks like she's floating in midair. And she was almost doing that because this happened in a split second. I mean, to be able to do this, you have to move really, really fast. I asked Annalise to do this because I've worked with dancers before and I knew what I wanted her to do. I asked Annalise if she could do the movement and it literally is, as fast as, it's just moving incredibly fast to hold that position. Now, there's only a split second between where she's moving up and falling down where you have to grab. Now, I tried with the a7 III to do this, and none of them captured that perfect moment. And I was looking through the screen when I did it, and I thought, yeah, it's just not perfect. And I was after that perfect moment of capturing the dress movement, that tippy toes just on her toes and the hands dead in the upright position, and the hair and the face in that perfect position as well. This was naturally lit. And so I tried with the A9 because I wasn't happy with what I was getting with the a7 III. So I only could capture this because I used the A9. Now I could have kept going with the a7 III and tried to get this for, 10, 15 minutes until I got that perfect moment. But the second I got the A9 out, I got it that next range of using the 20 frames per second. So I got it. So yes, you could possibly get this with the a7 III, but you'd be going over and over and over again to get that perfect moment. This is why something like the A9 gives you an advantage, and this is where hardware gives you a definite advantage if you're a photographer. It's not always the case, but it's cases like this, and this is why the A9 is so special, and even for sport, where you can capture that perfect moment of the ball hitting the bat, a sportsman doing a certain thing, a golfer hitting the ball at that perfect moment, or a dancer where you're getting her in that perfect moment like I have here with Annalise. And like I said, I could only get this with the A9. So, the A9 is incredible, and it still is an incredible camera. But like I said, I've never ran out of the buffer. Because I never shoot long enough to do that. Like, I don't really need to, but I can understand some sports photographers probably would, but I don't, so that's not an issue for me. So I can understand if a sports shooter would want a better buffer that cleared quicker, that maybe you could use the menus while it's clearing, faster cards. I mean, having the slower card in that was a bit of a silly thing to do in the first place for a camera at that price. They should have put the two fast cards in rather than having, the SD1 in there, and it's a bit of a disappointment. So that's one area where they could improve, but does it matter to me at this stage? No, it doesn't. So that's why I'm saying I'm going to be holding off for at least another 6 to 12 months before I upgrade to the new A9. Let me just go back to the chat. Just fly to the US and buy it. It's probably cheaper. Well, it may be, Jason. I'm out there in February, so who knows? That may be something that I do. Creative Films says, I predict you're getting it straight away. I won't be, Creative Films. I can promise you. I will not be getting that camera straight away. I'm not prepared to lose the money that I lost last time on it when I've already got the A9. If I didn't have the A9, I would struggle with gas not to get it. I'm totally honest with you, but I won't be this time. Nivak said, for most high-end electronics, you can often get nice price drops if you wait 6 to 9 months. Exactly, yep. Unless they're constantly back-ordered, yep. Well, I don't think the A9 will be. The original A9 wasn't either. Remember, you could get an A9 almost immediately, and there was no real waiting list. I didn't even pre-order the A9, and I got it on day one. Because it's so expensive, it's never going to be in demand like what an a7 III will be, for instance. It's never going to have that sort of demand. So I don't think you would have issues with getting one. Business expense write-off. It is unboxed, but you can only write off so much. That's the thing, remember. Depending on how much you earn too, you can only write off so much before it basically then no longer becomes a valid tax write-off. And that's the problem. But don't forget too, I still need a video camera yet, so I will be buying another video camera. I'm holding off on the a7 IV. Early reports show its high ISO is worse than the a7R III. I'm going to talk about that, Jason, as one of the stories. Trev said 7285 AUD. Yep, that's about what it's going to be. Oh yeah, it is 68 cents. Yep. Shova said, damn, you should come to the US. Well, remember there, I am there in February. So for 4 weeks. So that might be a time that I visit a few camera stores. Jim said, I think I spend too much this year since my wife is suggesting we look at cemetery plots. I love it. People will still buy Sony products. They release a new camera every month. Suckers will keep buying them. Don't call us that, okay? Mark said, got to go. Catch you later, David. No worries, Mark. PGO says, he already brainwashed his wife to justify the expense. I love it. Trev said, Jim, sleep with one eye open, laugh out loud. Isn't the crop for 36 megapixels around 14? Yes, but at least it's workable. The problem is with, I think is it 14 or 16? I can never remember. But don't forget that with the current A9, it's only 11 megapixels, I think, or no, it might be 9. So that's nowhere near enough, really, and it can be a reason for not to use it. So in crop mode, so that is a problem. So it would be better if you use crop. I don't use crop very often at all, so it doesn't bother me. I'm happy with 24 megapixels. But if you do like to shoot crop, 14 is workable. Creative Films is saying 15 stops my ass. He's saying that he's not going to get it. You won't get it in that camera. The a9 II will cost over $10,000 for me. We don't need any new gear, Sydney Image says. Underbound says, David, look for this marker for when the first story started. Oh, yeah, I can't I, actually? Was it 7:20, was it? I did time that, though, so, yeah, I will be able to do that. It's only that one I've missed, Tony. Unboxed Text Review said, sounds like the a7S III. It does. That camera does sound like what we're waiting. He's talking about the FX9. It does sound what the a7S III should be, but we're not getting it. Don't start me on that again. I'll be in trouble again. I've been... Chris Helicopter says, I've been bidding with no luck, but I'm close. I'm wondering if I should wait. Will they drop when they see the 5,000 price tag? Oh, I think he's talking about something. A9, pretty good price now. I think people are trying to get the a7R4 or the A9 II, but I don't think they will drop any lower than 2.5. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, it's still going to be, but no matter what, if you buy the A9 now or even secondhand, that camera is still going to be fantastic for at least the next 3 years. There's still nothing can touch the A9 now. Nothing. Iron to Brown said, the guts of the a7S III in a big camcorder body. Thing that tells us why there is such a delay. And I think you're right, Iron to Brown. And this is the problem. I think Sony, they can't do it. And I think they've reached a point of they don't want to use a bigger body. And this is the issue. So I think they're stuck now. With what's happening, and I think this is proven because they've showed that they can do it. I mean, Panasonic have showed that they can do it. Fuji have showed that they can do it, but they're all bigger bodies. You know, and that's the thing. So I think what's happened here is Sony are struggling with the size of the body that they've got. There's going to be a heat problem, and until they can solve that, we may not see an a7S III. Langston said, evening all. Unbox said, Sony could easily make the a9 II the hybrid king with 36 megapixels with decent video specs. We're not going to see 4K 60 in that camera. Look, I'll be jumping up and down. If Sony do that to me, I'll be devastated because then I'd have to think about buying it. Don't do that to me, Sony. Don't put 4K 60 in that camera, and that's the only camera we have that has it. Oh. Langston says, I don't see how the FS and the FX series are in the same category of user, but that's just me. Stuart said, cost of making and designing the high-res 60 megapixel sensor costs loads, but it's much cheaper to redesign it to a low-res version for the A7S III. What do you think about the Fuji X-T3? It's a great camera, really good camera. 10K is too specialised for me, yeah, and I'm the same. Sony is trying to get 4K 60 right, my guess. But the thing is, and this is what's interesting, Scott, Sony recently, and they had a Sony manager say this, that 4K 60 was easy. He said that. If you Google it somewhere back, it was a well-written document that he said 4K 60 was easy, but we want to exceed expectations. Well, if it's easy, I would like them to give it to us. Why wasn't it in the A7R IV? You know, and I don't expect to see it in the A9 II either. Remember, they didn't even give us picture profiles in the A9. Sony are pushing that camera deliberately away to the sports side of things. They don't want it to be known as a video camera. So I don't think we're going to see 4K 60 in that camera at all. Kathy said 4K 120 is S35 crop. Oh, okay. Oh, you did lose your power, Aaron, did you? That's funny. We were just talking about that before. Mark said, I'd rather wait for Sony to get it right, unlike the other manufacturers. Philip said, thoughts on 24GM, general use, love it. I love it. And I use that for portraits all the time. I really do love it. Fantastic lens. Amazing lens. One of my favorites. It's on this camera. Right there. Fantastic. Beautiful feeling lens. Nice and light. Great for a gimbal. I like the wide focal length for portraits. I know a lot of photographers don't, but I do. You've just got to be careful how you use it. I should post a video about that one day showing how I use it for portraits and how I pose the model and how I get them to lean and all different things. I should post that one day. I'll do that as a video. But superb. Great focus. Incredibly sharp. I love the declicked aperture ring. The programmable buttons. Fantastic. It's great. I use that extensively in my wedding work as well. Trev says, honestly though, pushing 6K into 8-bit data containers doesn't make sense for high-end video folks. So they may be at a crossroads on the A7S III. We video guys really want 10-bit, yeah, and we do, and that's the thing. I mean, I even would like it as well, particularly if I'd like to start doing, I've got some ideas that I want to start doing with the green screen, and 10-bit makes a massive difference with green screen work and banding in skies and being able to push it. The difference, guys, if you don't really know, the difference between 10-bit and 8-bit is like it's like a difference between RAW and shooting JPEG. You know how much you can push your RAW in the shadows and it still looks okay? You can't do that with the JPEG. Well, that's exactly the same with video with 8-bit and 10-bit. Massive difference in how much you can push the video files. Let's keep growing down because I want to keep moving. Langston says, yeah, but if video is that serious, then you're picking up a C200 or FS7. Wayne said, there is no price drop for the A9 II until well after the Olympics. You may be right. Again, though, Wayne, I'm not in any hurry for the A9 II. I've got an A9, so I'm not in any hurry at all. I love my A9. Like I said, it's my favorite camera, so I'm not really in any hurry at all. I'm prepared to wait a bit for it to drop down. I'm just not prepared to pay $7,200 again, like I did. That's all. Hero says, the new APS-C lenses are a damn joke for that price. Jason Vong is all about the video, so he loves APS-C. Yeah, well, I love full-frame video. Even on my A7 III, though, look, I've got the 16mm Tamron, 16mm Sigma that I'm using at the moment. But I won't buy other APS-C lenses. I'll be buying full frame lenses and using them on the APS-C. Like I said, I would be buying the 17 to 28 and the 28 to 75 Tamron lens before I bought that ridiculously priced Sony APS-C lens. It's too expensive for an APS-C lens that locks you into APS-C. It's just way too expensive, guys. Well, that's what I think. It's fine if you don't agree with that, and Jason obviously doesn't, but I would never pay that money for an APS-C lens. Never would I pay that for an APS-C lens. What else? Let me just see if we can go down fairly quick. Where was a notification? Come on, YouTube. I know, MJ. Guys, I really would appreciate a thumbs up because people just don't get notifications. It's a pain. So if you could give me a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. Sony needs to realise that size doesn't matter. Exactly. And I could joke about that. Fujifilm GFX 50 is $8,000. How does that compare to the Sony A9? Totally different camera. You can't compare them. You're talking about medium format there, Cruz Roy. It's a completely different system. Don't compare medium format to a full frame sensor. It's totally different. Mikkel said, hi, David, just arrived. Hi, Mikkel. Make that 24mm portrait video. Yeah, I will actually, Aaron. That'd be interesting. What's my favourite lens? I have to tell you, my favourite lens is the Sony 135 f1.8 G Master. I adore that lens. That is the best lens that I've ever owned. It's superb. It really is superb. I'll tell you the three. There's a few lenses that I adore. I love my favourite of all time is the Sony 135. I just love that to death. The next lens that I really love is the Tamron 28 to 75. That lens is everything to me. I can shoot almost macro with it. It's incredibly sharp. It's light. It's great for a gimbal. That lens is then my next favourite lens. The one after that probably is the Sony 24mm. And then the next favourite lens after that is the Sony 55. I adore the Sony 55mm as well. They're all very close in how much I love these lenses, by the way. They're not where it's one is streaks ahead of the others. But I'd say if I had to choose one lens that was my favourite lens, it's the Sony 135. Unbox says, still no A9 firmware. Yeah, I know. Well, they did say September, so they have got still 2 weeks. Jim said, I think Sony will always follow that Buffett marketing model with features and price being the idea to sell to many needs and levels. Yeah. Someone get us a Sony spy. Jim said, public service announcement, thumbs up, please. Thank you, Jim. Let me just see. I'll scroll down because I want to keep moving. Haas says, David, how does the T-stop work in their the video lenses, yeah. Sinai, yeah, it's Sinai, isn't it? Sinai lenses. Well, from what's been explained to me, Sinai, and Aaron may be able to even chime in with this because Aaron is more knowledgeable in video, but T-stops is the true amount of light that actually comes into a lens. F-stops aren't. Like it could be, for instance, that when they really measure light coming in, a lens that, say, you would think could be 1.8, in fact, the T-stop of that could be f2.8. And that's the difference. It's the way they measure the amount of light that's coming in. So the video lenses, the T-stop is the true amount of light coming in. So if you've got, say, like the ones I had, which was the T1.2, it actually is letting that 1.2 amount of light in. Very few f-stop lenses actually let that exact amount in, and that's the difference. The video lenses, it is a true amount of light that you're actually getting in, and I think that's correct. Aaron has said correct, yeah. So that's true. So video lenses are always more accurate in the amount of light that is actually getting into them. So the Sinai lenses are accurate, yeah, whereas f-stop lenses aren't. Casper said G-Master #1. Mike saying howdy from Texas. G'day, Mike. Hart said, so 1.2 and 1.2 are different. Yep, they are. Like I said, the T-stops is a true 1.2. F-stops is very rarely a true number of light that gets in. They don't relate to each other. It's a number how they calculate, and I'm not sure how that works as a mathematical way of doing it. But f-stops are not accurate. T-stops are. And that's all I can really say on that. All right, so let's go to the next story. We're up to the a7riv. So let me just put that in here. What time is it? It's 59. It's funny because I thought I didn't have many news stories, and I thought I'd have a short show again. But it never happens. I love it. It's you guys. You can just keep me chatting all day. Now, I just wanted to say for US people, the Sony a7 Mark IV is now shipping. It's been here for a couple of weeks, I think, in Australia, and I think in Europe it's probably been there as well. Yeah, Photomix could put a good comment up there too, and that's another example, that the Sony 100mm STF has a T-stop of 2.8. Sorry, an f-stop of 2.8, but the T-stop is 5.6. So it shows you that the actual amount of light in the Sony 100 STF is actually a 5.6. And that's a perfect example. Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, it's shipping now. So if you were waiting and you've got one on pre-order, hopefully it'll be there in the next few days. A couple have said they've already got it. I know Gerald had it. Someone else mentioned, I can't remember, earlier that they got theirs as well. So they are now being delivered in the US as well. Now, just to talk about this as well, it's some interesting things have come out. Pixel peepers, well, basically they're saying pixel peepers. They now have done the studio test on the a7R4 against all the other cameras. You can go to this site, and I'll put the links down below so you can check that out. But it looks like, and it doesn't surprise me at all, it looks like the a7R4 is about a stop worse in ISO than what the a7 III is. I think it's about half a stop worse than what the a7R4 is. Now, they probably will be fairly comparable when you downsample to that same resolution. So, for instance, if you downsample the a7R4 down to the a7R3 file size, they probably would be pretty close. But having said that, looking at the results, and I went, I think I looked on DP Review and I went through the chats and I looked at them extensively to see them, and I don't think even downsampling that, I don't think the noise is ever going to match what you've got in the a7 III, for instance. The a7 III will always tend to have much better ISO, and that's even after reducing it, because I looked at some of the images that were actually showed, and some of the artifacting and stuff like that could not disappear when you downsampled. So I think it's not going to be as good as what the a7 III is. That's for sure. So that's one thing for definite. I think it's probably going to match the a7R3 due to the fact that it's only a half a stop difference. They're going to be pretty close once you do downsample it. But it's just something anyway that you have to, I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, I think all of the cameras are amazing, and I think the ISO, they're talking here about shooting at, 12,000 ISO or 12,000 ISO. You very rarely go up there anyway. It's 1800, yeah. 12,800, I should say. So you're very rarely going to go up that far anyway, to be completely honest about everything. But it is just something that you do have to understand. And a lot of people who are reporting in the chats are saying that the R4 is definitely not as good in low light and having worse ISO. But I think it will convert when you do come down. It'll be pretty close. But I don't think it's going to match the a7 III. So I think if you're after the ultimate low light camera, in Sony, I think the a7 III is still going to be it, which is interesting. Well, it doesn't surprise me at all, actually. I mean, it makes sense to me. So, you know, there's a reason why the A7S lines always made low resolution cameras. That was to gather the most light so you could up the ISO and everything else. It just makes sense. So the more you're going to go up in resolution, the worse the ISO is going to be. But there's gains you also get, remember too, that it's going to be slightly sharper. So it depends on what you're after. Like the A7R4 is going to be slightly sharper than what the A7R3 is. It's just going to suffer a little bit extra noise. But overall, anyway, I'll put that down so you can have a look at these things, and you can compare cameras if you go to the site and all things like that, and compare different pictures that they test and things like that, color samples and everything else. But it's just something there for pixel peepers if you wanted to go to that. I'm going to keep moving on because then I'll come back. Just let me put a mark on just so we know where we are. All right, so the next story is I'm going to talk about the Tamron. What are we on now? 104.55. So the next story is talking about the Tamron. Now this is an SR5. I've had a lot of people ask me about this, and I said, look, if I knew, I couldn't tell you. So there is a rumor that it's going to be a 70 to 180 f2.8 zoom announced in October. And they're showing on here, these are the lenses. They're also announcing I think they're announcing 3 lenses all up or something. But there's a thing here that they're sort of guessing about what size this would be on you know, your full frame size compared to the 70 to 200 2.8 or the 28 to 75. It's probably still going to be the 67mm ND as well, which is fantastic. Now a lot of people, I've heard a few people complain about whether they think the 180 is a problem, and I don't think it is, because it's 10% difference, and that's what you've got to really understand about this. It actually only is 10% difference between the 180 to the 200. I would probably prefer to have the small size the way that I like to work than worry about having an extra 200mm. Now, I'm not saying what this is Tamron is going to release, because they may release a 75 to 210 or something like that. So that's also a possibility. Remember, we're only dealing with rumors at this stage. Like I said, if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what is announced. But either way, if this sort of matches their other lenses that are out there, it's going to be really pretty cool. But there's a couple of things that we don't know yet. Is the lens going to have stabilization? As we know, the IBIS on the Sonys is not amazing. I mean, it's okay to have, but it's not brilliant. If you're shooting in the longer focal lengths particularly, having IBIS is a big advantage. So will this not have IBIS? And that could be an issue. If you're used to having a lens that does have stabilization, particularly at that longer focal length where you may need it, because really just in-body stabilization alone may not be enough. Now, if it doesn't have IBIS, then you're really going to have to push your shutter speed up to stop any movement in the image to get a nice sharp image. So that's something that you may have to consider. Will this have IBIS? Will it be 70 to 180? Does the 180 bother you? It wouldn't bother me, but it may bother you if you do want that extra long reach. Particularly, like if you had an A7R3 or an A7R4, you could crop this in anyway, and you've still got ample reach using these high megapixel sensors. So having a 180 wouldn't bother me at all. But it really just depends, you know, on what you'd want. Now, a lot of people are saying in the votes here, 63% as against 20% said they don't know yet, but 63% said they would be interested in getting that lens. So it looks like it will be a fairly popular lens if you are thinking about going down that avenue. I predict this is going to be about $1,300, so I don't think it's going to be under $1,000, which people were hoping for. I don't think there's any way they'll make this lens for under $1,000. I think it's going to be around about that $1,300 mark, which is still way, way cheaper than the G Master. So, you know, it's going to be interesting anyway to see what actually comes out and what this is, what focal length it is, whether it has stabilization. These are all things that we don't know yet. what filter thread this has. If this had the 67mm filter thread, the same as the 17 to 28 and the 28 to 75, that is so cool because I love being able to use the same filters, the same NDs on all the cameras. You know, so it's interesting. This also could be a great video lens as well because it probably is going to be very light. Let me know what you think about it in the chat because I will come back to the chat at the end. I'm just continuing to move on so we can get all these stories out. But it looks like this announcement is going to be in October. Stay tuned. I will have a review of whatever this lens is before it's released because Tamron do look after me and I'll certainly have one for review. So stay tuned for that. So let's go on to the next story. I just wanted to show this because I thought this was pretty cool. Where are we? What's the time? 1:09:50. I just noticed this morning and I thought, oh, I'd like to have a look at this. SanDisk, sorry, a9ii, I think it's just pronounced, have announced 2 new rugged SSDs. But one has a built-in SD card reader in it, which is really nice. They are waterproof looking at this, so I haven't read the full document. I just saw it before I came online, and I thought I must talk about it with you guys. Certainly interests me being, you know, rugged. It's got an IP67 rating, which is fantastic. It's also crush resistance and drop tolerance as well. It's an SSD, and it's got speeds up to 430 megabytes per second. And it's got the built-in SD card slot as well. So, you know, you're going to be able to connect your phone directly to this as well, looking at that. Prices, it looks like, for the 500 gigabyte version, it's $179. 1 terabyte is $299. 2 terabytes is $499. I know that's the others. I think it's, oh yeah, that's, I think, is that? Well, anyway, the Rugged Boss, which I'm not sure if that's what this one is $449 for 1 terabyte. That might be what this is. Is it called just the Rugged Boss? No, they are all rugged SSDs, yeah. So I'm not sure about what the Rugged Boss is. That might be the one with the card slot in it. I'm just trying to see if it mentions it. Oh, yeah, it says here, finally, the LACIE's new Rugged Boss SSDs designed for photographers and filmmakers, offering 1 terabyte SSDs with speeds of 430 megabytes per second. As well, this drive is unique to the in housing an SD card slot alongside the USB port as well. It's got a built-in display for seeing real-time status on data transfers, battery life, and available capacity. The housing is dust, splash, and drop resistant. So it's the Boss that has the built-in card reader. Pretty cool. And that's $449, so that's not bad. That's for a terabyte. Cool. I'd like to have a look at that. Last story before we open up chat is the Canon 80 megapixel. What are we on now? 1, 2. Last story for the day is this Canon. There's rumors going around, and I think it's probably true, that there's going to be an 80 plus megapixel EOS R that's going to be announced, well, late this year, they're saying, or it's going to be early next year released. But they're saying that this is going to be the professional EOS R camera body that I suppose everyone is really waiting for, or the Canon shooters are anyway. Let me just move this over so that I can show you the whole thing. So according to the CR source, who claims to have a prototype of the unreleased camera in hand, the Canon EOS R will feature an 80 megapixel sensor, full frame sensor. It's going to have dual card slots, a larger LCD than the EOS R, a larger EVF than the EOS R, and a new style of joystick, all packed inside a body that is slightly larger. So it's going to be a slightly larger body as well. There's also talk of a tiltable viewfinder. That's really interesting. So I don't know how they're going to do that. You know, like you often see that in medium format cameras where they have a tiltable viewfinder. So that's interesting. As mentioned previously, it's thought that this camera will spell the end of the 50 megapixel 5DS. So again, we're probably going to see the end of the digital SLR line on that, and then they'll concentrate on the mirrorless. That's why I think the D6 will be the last high-end Nikon camera as well, sports camera. The next one will be mirrorless, you would think, which will not see an official update. The 80 plus megapixel full frame mirrorless camera is rumored to arrive in the first half of 2020. So it's still a fair way away though yet, which is surprising that they're taking so long to get that out. I just wanted to mention that one. So 80 megapixels, I think they probably will. Remember, they did with the 5DS and the 5DSR, they did up Sony in resolution. So I'm probably certain that Canon is going to try and do that again and sort of win that megapixel war and release that 80 megapixel camera. So let's open up just quickly to Q&A. 1440. All right, so let's have a quick Q&A. Hero Shot said, still waiting on my 200 to 600. Got another delayed shipping message. Oh, that's terrible. I wonder why. I know a few people. I know Gerald got his fairly quickly. Photomix says, yeah, looks like half a stop less light. Yep, we're talking about the new Sony a7R IV is slightly worse in ISO. It's about a stop worse than the a7 III, though. I don't think the lenses were the same, but I think I did read that somewhere, though. But look, it will make sense, Trev. It's definitely not going to be as good. Jay said, if you are looking at the a7R IV in the US, stay away from the big stores and contact local shops. And that's the same here too. It's often better to go to local shops because if you do go through the big stores, even with things like lenses or anything, you can't get them in stock. I wonder if it's in stock here. Let me just check. Let's go into the Sony. I'm not sure whether it tells you whether it's in stock or not. Interchangeable lens cameras. Let me just see. I don't know whether it tells you whether it's in stock or not. Well, it doesn't say it's not in stock, so perhaps it is. Because I think usually they say it's... I'm just looking down there at the Australian website. I've clicked on buy. I better not purchase it. Does it say anything? I'm just seeing if it's in stock here. No, it's back ordered. They're saying on the Australian Sony website, they're saying that expected stock is due in the first week of October. So it's 2 weeks away now, or 3 weeks away if you wanted to buy one now through Sony in Australia. So they are on back order even here. On our way to 110 thumbs up, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Gerald, g'day Gerald. Hi Gerald, got my a7R III, happy. Yeah, I did say that, Gerald, that you were very happy that you got it. 42 Pro says 135 is awesome, by the way. I know I love that lens, I really do. Aaron says, I got my Tamron from local stores. Yeah, and it often is the best way that you can get those cameras because they do get numbers in and they don't have the big orders like the big camera stores do. Guy Cassidy says, Blackmagic will be streaming an update on their YouTube channel at 8 AM London time. Maybe a Pocket Cinema 8K. Who knows? They've certainly been hitting things as well. I'm just seeing if... Aaron has just said the Tamron will be super. That's talking about the 70 to 180. And that's about it, really. So are there any last questions before you want to, before I go off for the day? It's just about my coffee time. Let me know. Because I'll stay for another minute or so, a couple of minutes if people want to fire away questions. So if you have any questions at all today, guys, put them down below and I do answer and make sure I answer them all straight away or as soon as I can anyway. Please, if you can, give us a thumbs up. That'd be fantastic too. Don't forget too that I do have a Patreon site. If you do want to join me on Patreon, it's very reasonable. I think it's a $5 per month thing, and I've just put a video up showing how I shoot when I shoot how I shoot for the edit that I'm going to actually do. And I've got a few things on there like wedding edits. I'm doing things that I don't show on my normal YouTube channel. The latest video I posted had me showing and demonstrating how I shoot for the edit that I do. And I show the image before the edit, and then I show what I got when I edited it, and I discuss that. So if you do want to join me on Patreon, please, I'd be rapt to have you on that channel. There's also a secret Facebook Patreon channel as well, where I, it's only a small group of people where we talk about things and go through questions. Anyone can answer stuff or ask questions through there as well. So you do get that as well as these extra tutorials. So please join me on Patreon if you haven't, or if you can. That would be fantastic. It supports the channel. Apart from that, that's about it, guys. So I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great weekend. If I don't pop online, I probably will come up with something because I've got a few reviews and things to do. I've still got a studio shoot that I've got to put up as well. So stay tuned for that. Apart from that, I've got to decide whether I'm going to get the new iPhone tonight. That's at 10 p.m. my time. So I'm going to be looking at that all day, thinking about it. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for all of your support too, by the way. I really appreciate you guys. I really do. And I'll catch you all for the next video. Bye for now.